How the devil are we? I'm Matt, and we're back with part 2, the reality check with Ross Coulthart. In the last one, he made some pretty interesting comments around getting a tour around NASA. I think one of the Mars sort of mission space centers or something like that. That's how much I pay attention. I do pay attention. And apparently, one of the directors was basically talking to them, and I think his wife gave him a nudge and said, "Look at that." And behind the director was a feed of the ISS, a camera feed, pointing out into space, and egg-shaped objects came from behind the ISS and basically flying in formation. And then Ross said, I mistakenly said to the director, what's that? Is it like SpaceX satellites or something? And the director gave a look to someone in the mission control, and they cut the feed. And then the director said, "Oh, I've got to go because I've got other things to do." Interesting that would happen, and it's not the first time that feeds got cut for NASA feeds. But let's have a look at what the second part has to offer. Hopefully, there's more revelations.
All right, here comes Shai, bouncing off of what you just said. Do you think that the current administration will truly get its hands dirty with disclosure, with Middle East issues coming to certain closure, Trump searching Nobel Prize, and Rubio called, quote, greatest Secretary of State in history? Would they really take a risk with this issue, even with all the testimonies made to Congress?
Okay, unpack a lot there. Do you think with the current administration will truly get its hands dirty with disclosure? Probably not. There's bigger fish to fry in America right now. Middle East disclosure will come at a catastrophic disclosure, I reckon. You know, like some aliens invading, or I don't know, crashed UFO that is undeniable. Trump searching Nobel Prize. Yeah, he's after that, isn't he? Rubio called the greatest Secretary of State in history. Bit early for that. Would they really take a risk with this issue, even with all the testimonies to Congress? Everyone could just say it's all bollocks, and the general public would move on, wouldn't they?
Okay, I think the bigger risk is not disclosing. The bigger risk is the public discovers very soon, eventually, inevitably, that they've been lied to for decades. Does President Trump want to be the president to preside over the continuing cover-up? I can tell you that there are people in his administration and in his family who want disclosure. And I do think there's a pushback by the national security state and the intelligence community. The number of intelligence community bots that try and meddle with the comments in our program in Reality Check, and the numerous bots that try and infest social media commentary.
You know what? What he's talking about there is like your standard, probably AI just going into certain channels and then just spamming it full of shit. Reddit. It's Reddit. If you look on Reddit, right, it used to be that you could have this discussion with people where someone would put something out there and then someone would go, yeah, that's interesting. It could be this, or asking questions like, where were you at the time when this video was taken or this picture was taken? No, it's just like someone's got to make joke comments about it, joke comments about it, joke comments, joke comment, and then it'll be bollocks, 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 joke comment, then it'll be, and it's just like, it's relentless now. And I don't think it's genuine people anymore. I think it's what Ross is saying. I think it's just bots just spamming the channels so that people will go, I can't be bothered with this. Like me, I don't even bother looking at Reddit anymore.
Becoming so conspicuous and so obvious, they use denigration, attack, ridicule, contempt, anything to try and shut down the story. And it's not working because the public want answers. I've never had a story before as a journalist that is so high profile, so highly visible. People really care about this issue.
Right, here is Gonzalo from X. Ross has hinted he's going to Peru. Has he thought about seeing the non-human tridactyl corpses available for research at the University of Inca?
Inca?
Great question.
Ica?
Yes, I am going to Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island in about 3 or 4 weeks. Really excited to do that. I host tours occasionally. I was in Egypt last year. And yes, I will be bringing you whatever I can from Bolivia, Peru, and Easter Island on the megalithic mysteries there, including, I hope, on a story related to the tridactyls. I've been in touch with Thierry Yamin, who's one of the more prominent investigators into this issue. And yes, I do hope to bring you something on this, I hope, relatively soon.
I'm not sure where I stand on the old tridactyl thing, because I always keep saying, right, if you ever watch any of my other videos, I react to a lot of proofies out there videos, and one of those is like cryptids, Bigfoot, the Yowie, which is like a Australian Bigfoot, the Yeti, which is like a Bigfoot in well, Bigfoot. But effectively, right, I always say if you can't find a body, I think it's bollocks. And now we've got bodies, and it doesn't seem like the scientific community are really taking much notice of it. And I don't know how much of that is because classical science will go, if we get involved in that, then it might kill all credibility and we won't get funding for X, Y, Z. But I don't know. I really don't know where I stand on the tridactyl thing. I think if someone comes out, like a Gary Nolan, and says, yes, I believe 100% that this is genuine, and I don't know, it becomes almost the norm in academic circles that these are real, I'll believe it, but up until then, it'll just be anything really.
All right, another question from X is from Demon Watch. Any comment on Jason Stan's claims that humans are a slave race and our governments are controlled by NHI?
I've heard that before about slave race and that Earth is basically owned by an alien race. I mean, what's the purpose? Usually, if you've got slaves, they do something for you. What do we do? One of the wildest theories was from the Y-Files. I watched an episode where it was basically about aliens are collecting human souls, like as energy, almost like food. They're feeding on our souls, and there's a black pyramid somewhere that's beaming when we die, our souls get beamed to a collection machine on the moon. Yeah, it sounds fucking nuts, right? But that's one of the darker theories out there that, yeah, imagine if we were put here by an alien race and we are at their mercy. They do experimentations on us. That's what abductions are. And yeah, it's not a great life because we are under control. But imagine that if they say, but even in death, your souls are basically food for the insectoids or something. It's like, yeah, I don't believe it, but yeah, it's a claim out there.
Look, I have to say, I don't know how Jason knows that. I've spoken extensively to Jason, and it's not something that he ever told me that he knew from any of his work. So if this is something that he's recently revealed, I haven't heard him say this, it's not.
That's the problem. Stories change over time. And if stories change over time, I have a hard trouble believing it.
Not something that he told me as a journalist in his very early days. I'm not saying it's not true. It's just that one of the things you look for when you are testing people's allegations and claims is whether what they're revealing is something that they've known in the course of their work, or whether it's something that they're speculating about, that they just think happened or that they've been informed about.
Or consistency. Consistency in story. I mean, one of the consistent stories out there is Travis Walton. I mean, little bits got added, but he explained that as like, when you go through a massive trauma, then details start coming further, like you start learning more details, the memory starts trudging things up. It could be that you're filling in those gaps and then you start believing it over time, maybe. Bob Lazar, that's another one. Story's been consistent over the years, whether people believe him or not.
I'd just like to see more rigorous questioning to get to the bottom of why he says what he says.
Okay, here is Dharma Lion. Hi, Ross. Have you looked into scientist Amy Eskridge's possibly suspicious death and her anti-gravity research and comments on disclosure? With your recent coverage of triangular anti-gravitic craft, who are the scientists working on this? Thanks. Keep up the great work, Jamie.
I actually spoke to Amy Eskridge. I don't think she killed herself. I do think there's a very high likelihood she was murdered.
That's a big claim, that, Ross. And I don't think she'll be the first one. I keep mentioning it, but it is a goat of all things paranormal stories and UAP stories and conspiracy theories. But I think Y-Files did a segment on people who were researching like free energy and anti-gravity technology. and the list of people that were researching these things who ended up dying in suspicious circumstances was shocking. Like, this is all corroborated. You can go out and find out that this person existed. They were researching these things, died. This person existed, researched these things, died, and there was a raft of them. So, do I believe it's possible? Absolutely.
I've got a very good friend who was a very, very good friend of hers who was being sent emails by her in the months prior to her death where she genuinely feared that somebody was trying to hurt her or kill her. And I've got photographs, harrowing photographs of burns that she allegedly suffered from some kind of directed energy weapon that she believes was directed at her from the street through the window of the office that she was working in. And they are harrowing images showing burns on her hands where literally there's a red mark that starts just from her hands, and it's as if her hands across a keyboard were being irradiated with something. I do think that
That's a bizarre one. Because if you think about your hands on a keyboard, now, if somebody's beaming a weapon through my window, they're basically going to get my torso, my head, right? Because my keyboard is lower than where the window is at the moment. So I can't imagine how that would work. I mean, would it through the window? Unless it was coming in maybe at an angle? Maybe. Potentially, I don't know.
The instance of the Amy Eskridge case is quite extraordinary. There's a whole lot of unexplained stuff. The difficulty is that her body was apparently cremated shortly after her death. Her family, and I have no wish to cause her family any hurt, her family do, I understand, believe that she committed suicide. I don't want to speak for the family or purport to speak for the family because it's always a tragedy when anyone loses a loved one. The terrible thing is there was no full coronial inquiry.
I suppose in these cases, the family probably have more of an inkling of what the truth is, because if she was constantly in fear, constantly living on the edge of being chased by men in black, and they're trying to hurt me, and I've got burns to prove that they're trying to hurt me, and she's getting into that manic state, then potentially they would think that she has hurt herself in that case. So I can understand it. I remember the X-Files. They basically poisoned the Mulder's water supply in his building, so that he was starting going off the rails a little bit, and he actually attacked his boss Skinner, punched him. So he got suspended, and I think it was aimed at trying to basically make it look like he was going off the rails, so that if he ended up doing himself in or committing a crime, then they would have sorted it problem out. Basically, he would have took himself out off the board. As someone in the building ended up committing a murder, and it turned out because the water supply was being poisoned. So who knows in these situations what they would go to silence people.
I did make inquiries with local police about why there wasn't going to be a full coronial inquiry, and it was because of the finding of suicide. I feel very sad about the Amy Eskridge death. She was a brilliant woman. She was, at times, unstable. She was a big drinker, but I don't think she killed herself. I truly don't think she killed herself. I'm sorry if that upsets the family, but I think she was a wonderful human being. She was making claims that she was making advances in anti-gravitic technology and propulsion systems. And of course, her father is, I'm not sure if he still is, a senior NASA engineer. It's a great tragedy that she was lost. She was a beautiful, brilliant young woman. And yes, she's one of multiple scientists I have spoken to or am speaking to who purport to be working on alternative propulsion systems. That's an area that I am exploring. If anyone wants to tell me any more about Amy, or indeed anything about alternative propulsion systems that might explain the weird and anomalous objects in our skies, I'm always happy to hear from you.
And if you are working on those propulsion systems, probably keep it quiet, because people who are working on these things do not often end in a good place. Never ends well.
Okay, we have an email from Cal. Ross, is there any new information on the September 10th, 2025 incident where a Hellfire missile bounced off an orb UAP? Everyone, even the legacy media, covered it, but still haven't heard back if it was analyzed and verified as real footage, not CGI or AI. No info on how high off the ocean, seen zooming past, field of view, if it was slow-mo or real time. I still doubt it's real as the Hellfire wanders in and out and doesn't detonate. Very suspect in my honest opinion. Disturbing either way, real or not. Thanks, Cal.
Look, I'm told the reason it didn't detonate, Carl, is because it wasn't an explosive charge. It was one of those horrible flail weapons where it basically flails into an object with blades. And
yeah, I think when it's fly through the air, when it gets closer to what its target is, blades pop out, and because it's spinning, it just basically is designed to completely shred the fuselage of an aircraft, rather than being an explosive charge. So that's probably why it didn't have an explosion, because it didn't have one on board.
Cuts the object apart. And I have to be honest with you, that to me suggests that maybe the object is a balloon. But what puzzles me is why there's been no official comment to explain this. It would be very, very easy for Congress to ask specific questions of the Defence Department about that video and get a very quick answer. And I don't think we should jump to conclusions. I would also like to see the rest of the imagery. There's apparently more seconds of imagery that...
Apparently there's about another 5 minutes where it just carries on flying. Now, two things that come to mind with this one. If it's a balloon, and it could well be, would a balloon not sort of like fall to the sea, so it wouldn't keep flying, maybe, unless it was windy and it's just being carried, maybe. And if it's a balloon, then the reason why it would have been tracked by one drone and shot down by another is because they were following it, and it was potentially a target balloon. So they were doing training and they were trying to shoot down a target balloon. If that's the case, just come out and say it. I could understand why they wouldn't do, though, because if you were trying to keep this UAP thing a secret and try to discredit it, what you would do is you'd let this video come out, you'd let it build momentum in the public sphere, you'd let everyone talk about it like they did after it was showed at the UAP hearings. You'd let everyone theorize about what it is. Is it a balloon? Is it one of these egg-shaped UFOs? Is it this? Is it that? You know, like, why is it not popping? Why is the Hellfire missile just going straight through it? What are the three little trailing objects that are following it afterwards? Everyone's theorizing about what it is, and then you let it build, and then you come out and you pop everyone's balloon, pun intended, and basically come out and say, yeah, it was a training balloon and it was an Hellfire missile. So then basically that deflates everybody, and everyone goes, right, okay, well, we can't get excited about these things because it just ends up being something completely prosaic. So next time they see something, they'll go, it's probably just another pissing balloon.
Complete that image that might provide an answer for us. What frustrates me, again, is this is Congress asking questions, legitimate questions, about a video that has been leaked, I presume, to them from someone who was concerned that this video potentially showed something anomalous. That should be investigated. Congress should be given an explanation. And if Congress isn't given an explanation, then we have to ask why. Who is running America? This is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. Congress is essentially sovereign under American constitutional democracy. It should have the right to ask questions. And what I'm really heartened about is that Chairperson Anna Paulina Luna of the Transparency Committee, Subcommittee and the Oversight Committee, she's actually now apparently moving forward to ask interrogatories of potentially hostile witnesses in the Defence Department and intelligence community who may not want to answer questions.
Drag them in there. Drag them in, sit them down and say, you will answer our questions. You will. don't think they've got the power to. Even Congress doesn't seem to have the power to just get things done.
This is one of those questions we should be getting answered. It really is time for Congress to start getting cleverer. I don't mean to detract from the significance of the recent UAP hearing, because like everyone else, I enjoy seeing the UAP subject being given a high public profile by our elected political representatives. But I do think it's time for Congress to take the gloves off and start asking the hard questions. Let's subpoena Admiral Thomas Wilson, who, by the way, is a good man, a former J2 in the Defence Department, who allegedly, and I'm saying pretty surely did, respond to questions from Dr. Eric Davis that comprised the so-called Wilson documents, which essentially describe his efforts to try and investigate the legacy retrieval reverse engineering program. Why was a deputy director of the Defence Intelligence Agency threatened with his job if he continued investigating whether or not there was this retrieval reverse engineering legacy program with you?
I suppose it's because if you're not clear to know something and you constantly try to know something, then you could get fired for it. But if something doesn't exist, then you can't exactly fire someone for it. You just say, does it exist? But he's come out, I'm sure Wilson came out and said, if I'm asked if I was involved in these memo notes are real, I'd just deny it.
UAP.
But then if you put him under oath in front of Congress, I suppose it's a different story.
Let's call some of these witnesses. Let's bring them in under duress if necessary. Let's do it first in a skiff if that's required to protect some sensitive national security issues. But let's get answers to these questions, including these unexplained images of anomalous objects, potentially anomalous objects. Because frankly, I can't answer your question because we don't have any further information. That's the simple answer. There has been no further information. The Defence Department does what it always does, which is refuse to answer public questions. And while we're at it, we're actually in a very grim time right now with the Pentagon. Sadly, Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth has brought in laws or proposed changes which would essentially require media to pre-vet whatever they get from people in the Defence Department with the Defence Department.
Yeah, I think it's getting more secretive, to be honest, rather than more disclosure. But then the world's in a precarious position, so I can understand it.
That's antithetical, I think, to good journalism, and I'm really pleased to see all of the major networks are refusing to comply with that expectation, and as a result, they're having their Pentagon accreditation removed. Sadly, I've got every respect for people in uniform. I have no doubt that we are in need of protecting national security secrets. But good journalism is often part of that process. And I've spoken to many generals, intelligence officials who respect and understand why the media need to ask questions. It's a good, healthy part of a functioning democracy. In the past, it's exposed things that should be exposed. War crimes, failures, equipment mismanagement, that kind.
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to ask of your military, of your government, are you doing the best that you can? Have you done anything wrong? Why did you do that wrong? Has there been any justice sought for these kinds of things? I mean, how many experiments did the US government do against its own people? Like, I did a video where they released like a toxic fog, and that caused like illnesses and stuff. Agent Orange, in Vietnam, they laced, their own troops with LSD to see how they react. MK Ultra, the list probably goes on and on. The Montauk Project, on and on. It's just you should always be able to ask the questions, and you shouldn't be afraid of being asked the hard questions. So, yeah, what the Secretary of Defense is trying to do here is basically say, you tell us what you want to ask and we'll tell you if that's all right, or we'll tell you what you should be asking.
Kind of things important. They need to be exposed. And you just have to ask, why is the Defence Department not answering basic questions about UAPs? And why is the mainstream media, for the main, just so willingly complacent and compliant in refusing to push and to keep on pushing for answers to those questions? I just think it's a disgrace. It really is a disgrace the way the mainstream media allow themselves to be supinely tickled on the tummy by defence and intelligence officials who feed them stories, and they just don't see the obvious stories sitting right under their nose. I mean, just coming back to the drone issue for a moment, by any measure, if you're a national security correspondent, a defence correspondent, what is going on at the moment over the continent of the United States, across Western Europe and the United Kingdom, is a national security disgrace. There are objects that are with apparent impunity breaching the airspace of highly sensitive civil and military national security installations. The governments of those countries don't have answers. Why not? And why is the public not getting answers? And more importantly, why is so much of the mainstream media not pushing for an answer?
Who knows? Maybe they do have the answers, but it would incite public panic. There seems to be more and more sightings these days. I'm not sure if that's because of the advent of drone technology being more commercially available now. More people looking into the skies, maybe, but I don't know. UFO sightings seem to be on the up and up. They really do. And is it a precursor to something? Who knows? Who knows?
That's the big question.
Okay, Ross, thank you so much. That will do it for today.
Wow, have we gone half an hour? That's amazing.
It flies by.
I want a full drawing of your sphere. One thing I was going to ask you is, when you say it was white, was it pure white or was it translucently pearly white? Like, were there colours white moving with it?
I didn't see any color movement. We've had reports before, like from Kaysen, about like if you threw a pebble at it, it looks like it would ripple. It didn't look like it had that water feature like that. It was more of a pearl, like a shiny, bright, translucent pearl.
Oh, okay, great. Wonderful. Well, it's great for you to have shared your story. And if there's anyone out there from Santorini who saw what Megan Orada saw, we would like a corroborative witness. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Some good ones in there. Ross's comments around the scientist who's obviously working on anti-gravity technology who didn't end their own life for the algorithm. It's weird that you can't say certain words these days. I mean, censorship is ridiculous. But there's a precedent for it. There's a real precedent for it. But yeah, I suppose the family just want to put this to bed and move on with their lives as you'd expect as a family, in that sort of situation. So yeah, Ross's feelings aside, but there seems to be a pattern with scientists who are just trying to, look at alternative energy sources, free energy sources. They don't end up in a good space eventually, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let me know what you think on this one. Hit that subscribe button if you can, that like button, comment more often than not. I do love to see the comments from people. My mind is very tired today. And yep, I will see you on the next one. You take care. See you later.